Welcome to the third episode of the Shaky Legs Run Pod. I am here with my friend, Bryan Gagner, who is the race director of the Herring Run, my favorite race. And I'm here in his studio because the race is actually tomorrow morning. So we're camping out here on Bryan's property. It's one of the parts of this cool race that you can just come camp out before. And yeah, I've been just like curious to talk to Bryan about a lot of things, concerning the Herring Run and like the history of the race and just kind of Bryan's background in running because I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last year or so, maybe a little longer. And but I don't really know about the history of the race and your running personally. So I was hoping we could just like chat about it. But before we get started, I wanted to say we are in Mascarene, New Brunswick, which is around St. George area, and it is freaking beautiful. I love when you come off the highway here, like the St. George exit. I love driving through like the valley here, and you kind of don't feel like you're on the coast, but you are.
Yeah, you're
It's
just following the Macadavic River down.
Macadavic River. Okay. And also, we are on, correct me if I'm wrong, Passamaquoddy Bay?
Yep, Passamaquoddy Bay.
Passamaquoddy Bay. So, part of the race, actually, you run over the bottom of the ocean because the tide's out.
Yep, across McNichol Cove at low tide.
McNichol Cove, looking out to Passamaquoddy.
Yeah, and you can see St. Andrews and Minister's Island across.
Yeah.
And you can also, if you look further to the south, you can see Eastport, Maine.
Right. Yeah, yeah. We're very close to Maine. It was cool. I was checking out the map of your guys' location, and
On the stairwell.
I didn't realize how close you were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty close. I mean, as the crow flies, it's closer, obviously. It's 5 miles directly across, I think, to St. Andrews.
Okay.
But if you want to go to St. Stephen Callis, it's like a 50-minute drive.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We got to go around the bay. But the Passamaquoddy Nation, they're one of those nations that's fighting for status in both countries because they were all around this area.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's Hugh Akagi is one of them, and I think he lives in St. Andrews. But there's just issues on both sides for recognizing that they're one of those border tribes.
Wow. Okay. I did not know all this cool history. I'm sure you could go deep on that too.
I can't go too super deep.
Yeah.
Sadie might be able to go a little deeper because she worked with our friend Maria Recchia.
Okay.
And Hugh a little bit with a nonprofit when I met her.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, it is a absolutely beautiful location, beautiful property.
Yeah, we're lucky. Sadie's parents live right across the road.
Okay.
They moved here in the 70s. Harry bought this piece of land as a woodlot. An old fisherman farmer used to live in the old house that was here. It was an 1870s timber frame, uninsulated. And he had horses. He had...
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
He had vegetables. We knocked the house down in 2017 because it was uninsulated. We had an outhouse. We got smartphones before we got a flush toilet.
How long were you here?
Sadie moved back from Whitehorse in 2008 or so. And I came, or no, it was before that. It was like 2004. I met Sadie in 2007 and we hung out for a while. And she had fixed up the old place. Okay. And then we had kids and the floorboards were just coming apart. And it was a beautiful old house, but it was old.
Right.
So we decided we want a flush toilet and like heat and insulation. So.
Okay. So Sadie is Bryan's wife. And this
is her studio.
Yeah. Okay.
She's also the co-race director. She does a lot.
Right.
I do most of the stuff in the woods. She does most of the stuff here. But yeah.
Yeah. They're a team when it comes to the Herring Run and when it comes to their business. So, yeah. So Bryan, he is so let's go back a bit here. You grew up not in New Brunswick, right?
No, I'm an American. I'm embarrassed to say, especially now. I lived down there for 33, 34 years. I grew up mostly in Connecticut and New Jersey.
Yeah.
That picture I sent you of the four runners,
Bryan sent me this fantastic on the video. I'll put it up if you're watching on YouTube. And
that was in New Jersey. So
okay, Tri-City.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then so New Jersey, Connecticut, and then I went to University of Colorado, was out there for 6 years, spent a couple years in Bellingham, Washington, and then moved back to Maine to visit my parents, got a teaching job in Maine, and that's where I met Sadie.
Why was Sadie in Maine?
Because her dad teaches at the Wooden Boat School down in Brooklyn, Maine. And we had a mutual friend, and I was living in Sedgwick, which is right next to Brooklyn. And so a friend set us up, and it worked. So.
And this was 2007, you say?
Yeah, I think so. I hope I have my years right.
So you guys get together like mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And you're in Maine. So what happens then with you guys? Do you decide to, are you thinking about like living together or something? Or
yeah, once we were gonna get married and serious, we're like, well, should we look in Maine or should we go up here? And we looked in Maine briefly, but it was pretty expensive. Even getting property through some friends, not even on the market, is still pretty expensive. And property taxes in Maine are like 6 times what they are here. So she had this place and was living here for free because her parents were right across the road from her parents. We're only 3 hours from my parents in Sedgwick, Maine. So, and there's free healthcare up here. And I'd always lived in, I lived in Maine for a while, and my parents lived in Buffalo, New York for a while, and lived in Washington State. So
wow.
I knew how Canada did things. And it's funny, back when George W. Bush started bombing Iraq, I looked into immigrating to Canada. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And it was expensive, and I had to learn French, and I didn't know French. So I kind of gave up on that. But I don't know. I like the border states. I like being up north. And we decided we want to have a family, so it makes better sense to have it up here.
So around what year did you guys decide to kind of come up to New Brunswick? And was it initially New Brunswick?
We lived in Maine for a winter because I still had a job down there, and she brought her sewing machine down to Maine for a winter to sew. And then we decided to come back up here. Again, I think it was 2008. And then I was officially a Canadian citizen in 2014.
Okay, cool.
So we're all dual citizens. She's a dual citizen because her parents were dual. And both my kids are because she's a dual citizen and they were born here.
Okay, I gotcha. Oh, wow, that's fantastic. And side note, you guys, when you talk about Sadie Sewing, your guys' business, Top Sale Canvas.
Well, it's her business. She took it over from her mom. It's been going for like 40 years.
Okay,
and
I didn't know.
I've been doing all kinds of stuff. I've had like 32 jobs my whole life. I can't really figure myself out. So I'm helping now. I was working at River and Trail, yes, but the commute was long, and we wanted to take a big 5-week road trip last year with the kids, and we couldn't do that working retail. So we decided I would work here.
So yeah, fairly recently started working. Yeah. And Top Sale Canvas, canvas bags, canvas.
We have purses, all the stuff you see up on the wall, up there.
Purses. Yeah. It's all kind of really well-made material, beautiful colors, really cool stuff. Mm-hmm. And ships kind of everywhere around the world, or?
Yeah. Yeah. She has a good online presence. We're mailing up a couple of packages a week. Before Christmas, there's a lot. Yeah.
Everyone in the race gets a small Top Sale Canvas bag.
Yeah, with some herring inside, a tin of sardines.
Okay, yeah, that's another thing I wanted to. But before we get into the herring run, I've been curious about more of your running kind of background, because you're a bit of a local legend in New Brunswick when it comes to trail running, because it seems like it's still a new type of sport, right. But when you get into the trail running scene in New Brunswick and you start to meet people, there's certain people that come up in like conversation, or just like when it comes to races or whatever. Mark's one, McCoglin's one. Mm-hmm. Bryan Gagner is probably like the second, if not the first, when it comes to like one of the people you hear about, because you've just been running, it seems like, trail running for longer than everyone. So did you just start running obviously you started young when you were in New Jersey from the photo, right?
Yeah.
And was that your kind of main sport, or was it?
It was. I was a spaz when I was a kid, and I used to run around in circles in my backyard with my X-wing fighter. And my mom had me tested, and I was positive for ADHD. And they wanted to put me on Ritalin, and my mom's like, maybe I'll just sign him up for track and see how that goes. So I'm glad she did that. It worked. So ever since I was 6, I ran track and cross country every year until university, really.
Where did you go to school?
Um, University.
Yeah.
Well, I got a full ride to go to Western State College of Colorado. It's a Division III school, but my parents didn't want me to go.
Wait, so okay, so in high school you were going to school where?
Brookfield High School,
So
Brookfield, Connecticut.
so in Connecticut. So you must have been elite when it comes to track and field.
I was on varsity for 4 years, track and cross country.
Yeah, because even if you're getting a full ride at a D3 school, that you're getting noticed by someone.
Right.
Yeah, so you're winning races, or you're competing, or
I won the conference for cross country, and for the area, I was pretty good. Like my fastest mile time was 4:39, which is pretty good. But instead of going to Western State College of Colorado, I went to University of Colorado. They're a Division I school. So I was immediately put on the B team because I was not fast enough to make the A team. And I think Ricky Gates, he's a Solomon runner.
oh yeah,
He was on the B team for CU as well. He was like 8 years behind me.
okay, so right, and he became
But Emma Coburn, she was like 10 years behind me, and she won the bronze medal, of course. And
University of Colorado is known for
Yeah.
a
So-
lot of good runners.
I had a great time all through elementary school, middle school, high school running. I was in the top of, my group. There were other teammates that were really fast, and we were fast in the conference. But when I went to University of Colorado, I was like a mid-packer or towards the back even. They kind of threw us all in together to train with those guys. So every training session was like a race.
Right.
And it was hard. I was lucky I didn't get injured, but I only lasted a year and a half on that B team. And the workout that broke a couple of us. We actually ended up moving in together, the broken ones.
Really? Yeah.
It was actually way better. So the workout that broke us was there was this lake outside of Boulder. It was exactly a mile. So we'd do 2 miles for a warm up. The B team would do 4-mile repeats pretty fast, trying to get negative splits with a mile in between as rest.
Just at an easier pace.
Yeah. And then 2-mile cool down. The elites on the team, or the A team, they would do 6-mile repeats, same format. And so they were doing their repeats in like 4:20, 4:25. And we were struggling to keep it under 5 minutes.
Can you do the conversion there to kilometers real quick? Or no? Are you all miles guy?
Well, 1,500 meter times, are you familiar with those?
Yeah.
You can add about 12 to 15 seconds.
Okay.
Or subtract from a mile time to get that.
Yeah. But it's fast.
Yeah.
What you're saying is hell. Yeah.
And
Fast as hell.
Alan Culpepper on my team, he was the same year as me. He went to the Olympics in Athens.
Okay.
Sean Found, he was a couple years ahead of me. He was he won like the 50K World Championship road at one point.
Okay.
He had the record for that.
So some real elite type of runners are rolling through UC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you run at UC for a year and a CU, sorry.
UC is what California.
Oh yeah, that's it. That sounds right. Okay. So you run at CU for a year and a half?
Yeah, and then so my friends and I, two of them, one was on the Nordic team and a cross country team. And then another guy was on track and cross country. We just moved in together, and we decided to quit. And then we played in the mountains and just ran and mountain biked in the mountains, and it was way more fun.
This is okay. We were out on a big run, me and Bryan together, out on the footpath, and I remember you telling me a bit about this part.
Oh yeah.
So you're off the team at CU. You end up liking and finding running in the mountains because you're in Colorado, like one of the best places for mountain running.
Right, and we always did that anyway for practice. We'd run up in the foothills of Boulder there.
Oh, is the school right in Boulder?
Yeah.
Man. Which is like now known as a haven for.
It's like Sport Town Central.
Yeah, and especially for trail running. in the U.S. So, yeah. Okay. Wow. Fantastic. So how long? You're still going to CU, obviously, just going, but just not on the running team. So you finish a degree there, or
Yeah. In teaching, like secondary school teaching and biology.
yeah. So your teaching degree, graduate from CU,
Yeah.
running in the mountains for 3.5 years straight.
6 years.
Yeah.
Because I was there for 4 years, and then I student taught in Eldora. It's a little ski town just to the west of Boulder. Did that for a year. And after that, I moved to Steamboat Springs and became a ski bum. I got a night job in a restaurant, and I snowboarded 100 days a year.
Is that still in Colorado?
Yeah. Steamboat Springs.
Okay, Steamboat Springs in Colorado. Become a ski bum. You can go all year there, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
And I started running in the summer and doing their local races way
Okay.
before they did the Run Rabbit Run.
Another little side note here. So you look at Bryan and you think he's, I don't know, 28 to 35 years old. And it's because I was just going to ask you, what year was this? And people are going to be like, what? Because it's probably what, early 90s?
I graduated from university in 1996.
Okay, university in 96. Yeah. So you're in Steamboat in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And how long are you there for?
I was there for 2 years.
And so that brings you to early 2000s.
It was 1998 or 9, I think.
When you leave Steamboat?
Yeah.
And where do you go after this?
To Maine. And
Okay.
I was teaching middle school.
This is where your family is, right?
Yeah.
In Maine. Okay, and you're teaching middle school in Maine.
Yeah.
So until 2007-ish? Do you stay?
Yeah.
And
well, I was there for a number of years. Well, before I do that, what was I going to say? Oh, by the time I moved to Maine, I kind of stopped running because that's when I had this knee issue that I couldn't figure out. I was doing longer and longer runs in the mountains. I was going for like 4-hour mountain runs, and I had registered for the Imogene Mountain Pass run in Telluride. It's 18 miles or like 28K from Telluride over to Ouray and back.
which is a part of Hard Rock, right? Or no?
It might be on the Hard Rock course, but I actually don't think so.
Okay.
It's just over this pass, and it's a high pass, and I was really excited to do it because I'd ridden my mountain bike there before, and I run outside Boulder all the time. But my knee was giving me issues, so I actually dropped. I canceled before I even went, and so I was bummed about that, and I never figured it out. So at that point, I moved to Maine. I was still trying to run, but I gave it up soon after that, and just I just kind of was a student, where I was teaching middle school, and after that I did carpentry for a number of years. And
while this was, you were taking the break from running, was there other physical activity you were doing, or not really?
I was mountain biking every now and then, and I'd cross country ski when I could. I was a bit more lazy. I was 175 pounds, as big as I got. Yeah. But I was always missing something, I wanted to get back and do something, but
yeah,
it was always hard.
So was there just a point where you're like, I got to figure this knee thing out, and you did something about it? Or were you trying a bunch of things and then?
No, there was. I'd met Sadie, and Sadie always jokes, like, when I met you, you were not a runner.
Okay, so you met Sadie before you got back into it.
So I took 12 years off between 35 and, no, it was 25 and 37.
Okay.
I didn't run during those years.
25 to 37. Okay.
When I was 37, I was like, I got to start running again because we had kids. And when you have kids, you kind of sense your own mortality.
Yes.
And you want to start doing something. Yeah. I've seen it happen with all my friends. And what really triggered it was we were in Indigo looking for Christmas presents. The kids were in that little toy section there. And I saw this book, Born to Run. And I had almost direct contact with that story, the Tarahumara, because that guy Sean Found, he ran with those guys.
Okay.
And
Sean Found was
he was a runner at University of Colorado.
Right. Yeah.
And a really good one. And a good guy. And then so anyway, a lot of times we would go hiking in the mountains, and to hike the 14ers, if you want to get up on top of the 14,000 foot peaks, which I don't know how many meters that is, but it's high. There's not a lot of air up there. So you'd have to start at like 3 a.m. So my friends and I drove to the trailhead. We're just doing a hike, and there was all this activity. It was the Leadville 100. And as we were pulling up, we saw these guys run by with the white robes. We're like, what is that? And later we found out it was the Tarahumara.
At Leadville.
Yeah.
So you didn't realize it was Leadville at the time?
We knew it was the Leadville race. And like crazy. Why would anybody want to run 100 miles? People aren't supposed to do that. Like,
But you didn't realize it was the Tarahumara running by.
no,
Yeah.
not until I had heard the stories.
Right. So
Sean.
if you're not familiar with Born to Run, that's also how I got introduced into the trail running scene, reading Born to Run. I was like I was just running, and then looking up books on running, and that's one of the first one that always pops up.
Yeah.
And it's the Tara.
Inspirational.
It really is, yeah. And it makes everyone think they should run barefoot, but it's about like a tribe from
Mexico.
in Mexico that are just like kind of built literally to run, and they can run forever, and they run kind of in barefoot shoes and
Tires.
yeah, made of tires. It's just a great story. Like
I actually have a pair of those Luna sandals too. I bought last year.
no way. Okay. So if you haven't read Born to Run,
Barefoot Ted, he owns that company.
yeah, that's right. That's a character in the book, and it's a true story, obviously. And yeah, it's a great one to check out, and it's a good audiobook if you go running. Like buy the audiobook and can listen in too. And okay, so you're there. You're back running in 2007, or no? You start to
2011 was when I started running, and I did run barefoot, and I hurt my foot, and then I stopped and got some Hokas.
just went to the complete opposite end, the thin boys to the thick boys. Oh, that's funny. Okay, but yeah, I think a lot of people read the book, got some barefoot,
I
get hurt
too quick.
Yeah,
but it's funny because since then I've been doing all kinds of foot exercises for more than 10 years, and my feet have gotten way bigger, and they never get cold anymore because they're a lot more vascular.
Oh, really?
It's just like climbers don't get cold hands a lot as much as normal people because their forearms are so pumped, and their hands have to be really vascular. There's a lot of veins and arteries and muscles are all well developed.
Okay, yeah, that's you're a picture of longevity at this point, which is like another thing I wanted to talk about. But yeah, like what are so okay, wait, we'll go back here. I just want to continue with your history leading up to the herring run. So you listen, or you're 2007-ish, you and Sadie get together. 2000, you don't start running again until a few years after that, even.
Right.
So 2011, you figure out your injury issues.
Yeah.
You start running pain-free, and are you just like on top of the world, or what?
Well, the first run I did here was the Kujibaquac half marathon.
I don't think that exists anymore, right?
I don't think so either. Well, because they do it through the park, and it was like a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon. There are only like 5 people doing the marathon, and maybe 30 that did the half.
Is it a loop, like multiple loops, or?
I think it was one kind of squiggly loop. I thought it was going to be a trail race, but it was all under crusher dust trails.
Yeah.
So it was really like a road race. It was my PR for the half marathon.
Okay.
So it's pretty funny.
So you just sign up like without much training, or?
No, I had trained. I knew I wanted to do this and do some longer runs. So I figured a half marathon would be a good way to start.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So half marathon down in Kujibaquac.
Yeah.
And after that, did you get the bug, or to keep running, or?
Yeah, I did a number of them. I did one of Jody's races in Wentworth. That's where I met Nat Couture
Jody Eisner.
and Jody Eisner.
Yeah, he's a Nova Scotia. He's like the Nova Scotia version of Bryan.
Well, he was doing them before me. He was doing trail races around here before me. Because when I moved here, there weren't any trail races.
Right.
Because the Kujibaquac wasn't really one.
Okay.
I also did the H2O triathlon in Fundy. I was the running leg.
H2O triathlon in Fundy, another one that does not exist. I never heard of that one.
It was good.
Fundy Park?
Yeah. So they swam in that lake where John was doing his kayaks.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they rode their bike all the way to
Bennett Lake.
Yeah, Bennett Lake. They rode their bike all the way to Wolf Point. And that's where the transition was. And then I ran the coastal. Back
what?
To the
that sounds so sick.
It was awesome.
Man.
It was great.
How long did that last? That race?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't, like a lot of races, they didn't last too long. It was a couple years and then they were done.
Right. Wow, that sounds cool. I did not know about this one. Okay, so you do that.
Yeah.
And what year was this? Like soon after your initial Kujamaquac half,
It may
or
have been 2011. May have been that first year.
similar year? Yeah.
Yeah, I did a couple short races in Maine. Yeah, and that one at Jody's in Wentworth there.
Okay. Okay, cool. So then when do you decide, because Herring Run wasn't the first run or race that you kind of got going, right? You had something to do with Rockwood too,
I
right?
did, but Herring Run came first.
Okay, so when did you decide to put a race on? Also, another side note, the Herring Run, it's kind of a, people love it so much. I love it so much because it's like a backyard style race.
Literally.
It's literally in Bryan and Sadie's backyard. And it's just like a wicked vibe. And so when you guys moved to this property, was there a trail established in the backyard already, or?
No, there were some old woods roads.
Okay.
And out back, there's like Leland's Lake that you run by. So a lot of people don't even see it because they're just so focused on their feet. And then there's like another meadow, but it goes by some pretty stuff. There's like a cliff back there. So yeah, there were deer trails and some woods roads.
Okay.
That whole backstretch where you run past the four-wheeler there at the end,
Yes.
that was existing.
Okay.
So I pretty much am just maintaining those.
So when you're on this property, you realize there's some cool stuff back here.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to live somewhere where you could run out your back door.
Yeah.
I lived pretty close to something like that in Bellingham, but it was all public property. Okay. Whereas this is all private. There's 7 different landowners here. And when Sadie and I moved here and got married and moved into the Eugene McNichol's old house, that's McNichol Cove that we're running across.
Okay.
We used to have a herring weir out there.
Okay. So that's where the name comes from.
Yeah.
Okay, I was curious about where the name came from. Oh, the Herring Run, the Herring McNichol Cove. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So they all thought we were a cute young couple, so I built the trail first and then asked permission, and they were like, "Oh yeah, sure, that's fine." So.
And this was a 10K loop?
Yeah.
And right off the bat?
Mm-hmm. And so I started building that in 2012 or 13, just poking at it, and told Sadie I wanted to do this race, and she was like, "All right." And because Harry and Martha have a clam bake in their cove every year. They've been doing it for 50 years.
These are your neighbors?
Harry and Martha are Sadie's parents.
Sadie's parents, okay. And they have a clam bake, okay.
So Harry's an off-the-grid boat builder, wooden boat builder.
Yeah.
And they're a pretty funky couple. They're awesome. And so they've been doing this clam bake every year. It's open to the public every year. They have bags of like cutlery and plates and forks and knives, so they don't have to use styrofoam plates. And that's what we use here, is their setup. And just everybody comes to this clam bake, and it's a potluck, and they bake clams in the sand. They have a fire pit, and then they throw clams and like,
oh, that's too cool,
oysters and onions and stuff. So we're used to that potluck thing.
Big fisherman community here in St. George, right?
Well, yeah, lobstering, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the spot.
Yeah. Back Bay, actually. And there's a lot of aquaculture too. But so anyway, we were used to that kind of, big outdoor party atmosphere, and we wanted to do one up here with running. And I was always frustrated with any other race I went to, how you're done, you get a bag of donuts and you go home, or you get some funny plastic trophy.
So right from the beginning, the idea was to have like a potluck thing. So at the end of the Herring Run, there's basically a potluck, but you guys provide everything.
We make all the food, but it's as local as we can get it.
Yeah. Okay. So that was an idea right from the get-go?
It really was. I mean, I wanted to have a good trail race. I wasn't doing ultras yet.
Really? Okay.
I was just doing longer, 2 to 4 hour runs at the longest. It still seemed crazy to me to do an ultra.
Okay. Okay. This is interesting.
But I soon got into it and met all these people. Like Tim Barry was one of the first people I met, and Sean Creary was running the St. John Trail Runners at that point.
Right.
And Tim Barry and I decided to go run Chignecto one day. We're like, oh yeah, let's give her a go.
No race, just go out to rip around. Yeah.
And we stayed we camped in that little parking lot.
Around a 50K loop out there, if you don't know.
Have you been to Chignecto?
I did the race last year.
Okay. Yeah. So we camped in that little parking lot right by the visitor center. This must have been 2013 or 14. It must have been a year or two after the Herring Run. Anyway, we decided to run it, and he was having stomach issues halfway through, and I was having major IT band issues halfway through. So we just limped back And then we asked the people at the gas station if there was anywhere to stay, and they had an old trailer out back with like lights, and that was it. And they apologized and didn't want to charge us money, and we're like, dude, you just need a flat place to lie down.
You just crashed in someone's random trailer?
Well, they were going to convert it to a place to stay, but they hadn't done it yet.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, we're going to change the sheets. And we're like, dude, we got sleeping bags. We're all set.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's fine for trail runners.
Chips and drank beer.
Did you limp back the whole route, or did you turn around?
Halfway.
Oh, and you went back the same way you came?
No, we did the whole loop.
Yeah.
But at 14K, we're like, or no, it's 48K, isn't it? So it was like 20. It was like 18 or 20K when we were both just like,
right,
we can't even do this.
Kind of done for. Okay, and that was your first kind of ultra experience. That's amazing.
It was really fun. And then, obviously Tim's gone on to run the Fundy Trek and all kinds of other badass things.
Yeah, 100 milers, yeah.
And I have never done anything more than 55K. The footpath is my longest.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I kind of assumed you had done a lot of longer distances, but I haven't done many either. I think an 80K is the longest I've ever done.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But, okay, interesting. So going back to the herring run, so you decide to start the herring run, and was there many other races in New Brunswick at the time? Trail races?
No, I know that Daryl Steves had a 50K in Rockwood Park where it was either a 5 or 10K loop.
Daryl was the first one to start that?
Yeah, I don't know how many years that went, but it was another one of those races where it just went a few years. It may have even been just a one-off. And that I always had that in the back of my mind, so I just wanted to do one here and have kind of a nice party afterwards where you get to meet the people and everything.
So the first year of the herring run, what, 2013 did you say?
Yeah.
And how many people come out?
There were like 30.
30 people come out for the herring run. And how did you put the word out? Is it just people you knew basically?
I put posters all over town. It's funny, we don't do any marketing anymore because
it's all online.
Well,
you don't even have to because people know.
Yeah, people know. And also St. John Trail Running Community is so big now,
right?
With what Mark has done with it, so it's easy.
So you were literally putting posters up in St. George?
Yeah, posters in St. George, and we got a fair bit of local people. We don't get that many local people, which I'm bummed about, but anyway, posters up. I even went to St. John and put some posters up. Sean let me put one up in his shop, and just yeah.
So compared to now, 2013, the road running scene is always been kind of popular.
Yeah.
There's always been kind of marathons in New Brunswick and different road races.
Right, and I did reach out to some of those people. Like Alex Coffin came in the original year as well. And he's another one who's he got people excited about marathons before I was here. Alex
is another local legend. Everyone kind of knows Alex in the running scene. And okay, so 30 people come out. Are you happy with the turnout?
Yeah, it was awesome. I was really glad. I mean, this has never been a money-making operation for us, but it was the worst weather that year. It rained like 40 millimeters the day before, and so some of our bridges were underwater.
Yeah, you cruise over some bridges, which is fun, part of the race, but these were...
And some of the puddles were up to people's knees. But we got, Glenn Trites was there for the first year. And I don't know if Evan Arsenault was. He was definitely like the second year. Was he?
Yes, because he told me...
and all the pictures are on the website, too. I kept I think the starting pictures from every year.
I remember talking to Evan, and he told me he's been here since the beginning.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
He's another fast trail road runner in New Brunswick.
Didn't he just win something? He won the Father's Day race in St. Andrews.
Yeah, he won Father's Day, and I think he just got second at East Coast Beast Coast today.
Oh, did he? Who beat him?
Cody Cooper. Yeah. So those are two fast guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so year 2 of herring run, does the number of people start to increase, or?
Yeah, the next year it was 60. Then it was
doubles right away.
Yeah, and I can't remember if that next year it sold out because we set our limit at 100, I think, the first year. And then we realized there's like a 15% cancellation rate, so we put it to 115.
Right.
And we wanted to keep it small just because we can't fit a lot of cars in our fields.
Right. Yeah.
And we didn't want that many people in our yard. We wanted it to be more kind of intimate and just small.
Right. So when does it start kind of selling out? What year?
It must have been 2015.
So year 3, basically.
Yeah, and those first few years it would sell out in 2 hours.
Yeah, well, it still kind of does, doesn't it?
Well, it's like 24 or 12 now. It sells out in about a day.
Yeah.
It used to be if you weren't on it, you'd miss it. And we've always had a 20-person wait list. And this is the first year actually that it didn't fill up.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure part of the reason is there's so many races now.
right.
By the sounds of it, Herring Run for the first 3 years of the Herring Run might have been the only trail race aside from what Daryl had going in Rockwood, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so and then you are somehow involved in Rompin' Rockwood, right?
Right. So a couple of years after that, I decided, well, because I got you can get a provincial license for a business or a federal one, and I decided to get a federal one because I was like, oh, maybe I'll do something in Quebec.
License for racing?
For a business license.
Okay.
Which I regret now because it's a lot higher taxes,
Yeah.
and I'm never going to do that. But anyway, we decided to go to Rockwood because I was frustrated with Daryl's just the loops. You know, I have trouble doing loops. I can do 2 loops, but after that, it starts to hurt my brain.
Yeah.
And there's so many good trails in Rockwood. So I was like, all right, let's see if we can find a loop together. So Glenn Trites and I ran a couple times around in Rockwood trying to find a loop that would take advantage of all these trails. And I finally pieced it together, and that was the original Rockwood loop.
25K?
Yep, 25K loop.
Okay. So
And it's different now.
yeah, it's even changed from like a couple years ago again. Yeah.
But it was great when we did it, but it was really hard because we had young kids and we'd have to truck everything there. And we were trying to use that building that's right there at the start finish. And I don't know if I should say this, but Emily would let us use it, but she said, don't really tell anybody. And then the guys in the ATV, the maintenance guys, would open it for us. But the first year we did it and used the toilets, the septic kind of overflowed out all over the pavement. And then we're just like, oh, this is bad.
First year, you say?
First year. And we cooked all the food again, too. So the second year, I forget if it was the second or third year, we got East Coast Bistro to do the food for us. And it was fantastic. It was expensive, but people got to eat a lot of yummy things.
Do you have a limit at these races? Are they?
I think we set that at 300, but it never got there.
Okay. You still get big numbers?
Well, I don't have anything to do with Rockwood anymore.
No, I mean like at the time.
Yeah, it was bigger than this.
Yeah. So the
remember.
popularity of the trail scene was kind of starting. You started to feel that it was changing then, or?
Yeah. And I remember Adam Tremblay came, and he had a lot of friends because he's been a whitewater coach for a long time. So he kind of came with his entourage and they were all friendly people and runners and athletes and stuff. So that was neat to see. And I forget, there were a bunch of other people who came for the first time there. I think Mark McColgan, I don't know if he came to the first year, but he ran the Rockwood one year.
Okay.
I think it was his first ultra. But
so you would have 2 loops, one 25K and a 50K.
And it's a long day, but we wanted to do it. It was just it was kind of a funny venue. It was hard for us to get there and back and then deal with kids. And it was also, we really wanted to use a building in case it was raining and not have to set up all these tents. And it was also on the sly because they didn't have money to upgrade that building, and we were kind of allowed to use it, but not really. So we're just like, and so Sean Curry took it over for a few years.
Okay, so there was no gap where you guys stopped. Sean took it over eventually, but you and Glenn were kind of the catalysts of the original Rompin' Rockwood
really well. So he kind of took me all around in there, and then we figured out a course.
Okay.
And so that's the original course, like ending on Skywalker.
Okay.
High Skyway. I wanted people to suffer.
Yeah, everyone loves that part.
Yeah.
Okay, so interesting. So you were race directing 2 races basically for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And
so then I had to give up the Rockwood, and then Sean took it over, and then Mark took it over after that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Mark Gallant and Sean were doing it for a while, right? And then
I think Mark McColgan did first.
Okay, McColgan did first, yeah.
And now he still helps, but Boone is helping,
right.
Boone Keck, and then Mark Gallant.
Okay, yeah. I knew they were involved a little bit too. Yeah. Okay, cool. So going back to the Herring Run, year 12.
I keep jumping.
This is good. No, this is fantastic. This is exactly what I was hoping. So
this is year 11 because we missed 2020.
Yeah. So 1 year all the races were canceled. Yeah. So Herring Run was canceled. So year 11, last year was year 10. can you believe it? Like there isn't many races that last this long.
Well, it's funny because like the road races do. Maybe they're easier to organize, or I don't know. Like the Hampton 5 miler, it went for 20 years before that guy retired, and now there's somebody else. Somebody else did take it over, which I was happy to hear. It's a nice race. And then same St. Andrew's Father's Day race. And do you guys remember Joel Bourgeois?
No, don't know that name.
He came here and he had the course record once. I think his dad started the Grand Dig race.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say this was the last year for Grand Dig.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so they're
taking it over.
yeah they're hoping someone will, but
Okay.
that was one, and also the Marathon by the Sea, also one that didn't is gone now.
Right. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so some of the popular races do go away on the roads, but
Yeah.
I think so. It must be something to do with dedicated, or everything to do probably with dedicated race directors.
Right. Well, I also see these other races like Western States, and I don't think Herring Run will be an institution where somebody will come take it over because it's on so many private properties. It's really personal to us.
But I'll interrupt you here.
Yeah.
That's what makes it good. That's what makes the Herring Run special and different from all the other races. It feels like a little, I don't know, get together more than like a kind of competitive race.
And
It's
we like that.
Yeah.
And also based on where we live, like if I lived in St. John of the KV, I'd see people so much more. When I worked at River and Trail, it was great because that was my social aspect. Sadie and I both don't get it here.
Right.
It's a beautiful spot. We're way back in the woods, but if we want to see our friends, we have to drive to Fredericton or St. John, closest places.
Yeah, the only time we meet up is like on the Funny Footpath, which is a drive from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So this is kind of a special thing for you guys as well, obviously. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So we are in year 11 of the Herring Run, and I can't wait. This is so funny, man. So there was a new race where I'm from in Sussex today, actually, the day before the Herring Run, and I went out. I didn't run because I got a knee thing going on, but I'm a massage therapist, and one of my clients was there at the race who loves to run. And when she comes in, we talk about running, and she's like, "What are you up for the weekend?" After the race was done, and what are you doing for the weekend? She said, and I was just like, "Well, I'm doing the Herring Run," and she goes, "Your favorite race?" She even knew because I talk about it, to everyone. But
Nice.
But there's so many cool trail races in New Brunswick now. St. John Trail Running has done a fantastic job. The crew in Fredericton, like Yos,
blown it up.
yeah, it's just incredible. But the Herring Run, the originator. Do you feel that way, or?
Well, I don't because I guess it's the longest trail race that's been going on. It hasn't been going on that long, but like really, Daryl Steves started doing it, and I don't even know. Maybe Alex Coffin did some, and then everybody, in University of New Brunswick there, there's a cross country team.
Right.
That's kind of like trail running.
Yeah, and they train in the park there that feels like trail running.
Okay.
What's it? Not yeah, the big. It's like hill running. It's like you can do a lot of hill training. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the park right in the middle of Fredericton, but Odell, yeah, right. Which is a fantastic spot to train. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's so many good trail races. I just feel like we owe a little, gratitude to you for.
Well, thanks. I still feel like Daryl Steves is like the guru who.
Well, that's another thing. I'm gonna have to say thanks. Yeah, thanks to Daryl, because I didn't realize that he kind of was involved in that initially. Yeah, mm-hmm. I knew that he was a kind of a legend running wise, but I didn't know he race directed for a couple of years. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, here I just want to check if I had it. Oh yeah. So another thing I wanted to ask you about. Your longevity when it comes to health, and because Bryan's like very fit for your age, and is there any kind of cool tricks or tips for runners out here?
It's so funny whenever I hear people ask that to other like octogenarians or something. It's like when you ask a question like that, everybody's like on the edge of their seat. I could say anything, and everybody'd be like, "Oh yeah." And they're going to type it in. They're going to do it. They're going to drink a shot and a half of Worcestershire sauce every morning. That's the secret.
But
I don't know.
Not sure?
I don't have a secret. I've been running since I was little. And I haven't always eaten well. And I still don't really, I still eat a Ben & Jerry's. Right. A whole carton.
What about
Yummy.
yeah, don't deprive yourselves, people.
But I try to eat as best I can. Like I don't eat much red meat. I never really have. Fish and poultry. Of course, going to University of Colorado in Boulder, I got exposed to a lot of high-end athletes who eat really well, and that's where I learned about quinoa and just all these other, just healthy foods to eat. So most of my meals are grains. Like I don't even eat pasta much, just because I'd rather have a whole grain. So like buckwheat or quinoa or rice, veggies. Um, we used to have a big garden. You see the big fence down in our dooryard. Um, we haven't been doing it much. We didn't do it at all last year. Well, we grew garlic last year, and this year I planted some more things. But when the kids were little, we grew a lot.
Yeah.
And it was awesome because we'd have fresh squash. So I really think that helps.
Yeah.
Is growing if you can do gardening, just to have that really fresh food, or if you have the money to go to the farmer's market and get that stuff. So, and I heard somebody say once, if you eat healthy 80% of the time, you're pretty good.
Right.
You can still have ice cream and chips. You don't have to cut it out. If
Exactly.
you're like Olympic level, then you don't even eat grilled cheese, which no chips, no ice cream. Because when you have chips, you get salt, and it makes you heavier, makes you bloated. Your tissue takes on water.
More inflammation.
So you don't want to do that. As yummy as it is to have pizza the night before a race, you don't want to do that.
Too much salt.
Too much salt.
Um,
You're going to be feeling stumpy.
okay, yeah. So diet's a big one, but I remember chatting to you a little bit when we were out on a run, and you're pretty big on like mobility, eh?
Yeah. So this is another thing. Through my running career, while I've been in Brunswick, I've had Achilles trouble my whole life, on and off. My first big bout was back when I was like age 6. We were doing lots of sprinting, not warming up enough. And I really started trail running back then because we would run behind the school on this trail, and I remember we'd always stop and play with the frogs, and then just for like a minute, and then we'd keep going, and on this trail in New Jersey, a whole gaggle of us. It was great. But sorry, I got so far off.
I could see you go back there. Yeah, you were back with the frogs there for a second.
Oh, so I had this Achilles injury. I couldn't get rid of it. So at the time, I was reading Running Times magazine. Do you remember that?
No.
It was a great magazine. It was a magazine for like real runners. It was real stuff. I always found Runner's World was like the top 10 things you can do with a yogurt cup while you're running, or I don't know, weird things like that. So Running Times was really good. And they posted a lot of results too of big races. And this guy, Phil Wharton, came up, and he was known as a stretching guru. He trained with the U.S. Olympic teams and helped people with mobility. And in the article, he said he tries to make a point to see international students as well, or international clients. So I gave him a call. He lived very close to my grandmother's down in Virginia, and he agreed to see me. So I went down there, and what he does is active isolated stretching.
Okay.
And if you Google his name, Phil Wharton, and active isolated stretching, you'll find it. Anybody who trail runs have seen me doing my kooky stretches, pulling on my legs with this rope, and that's what it is. And it's different than static stretching, and it worked for me because I always had really tight hamstrings. I could never sit on the ground with both feet in front and touch my toes.
Right.
So after 2 days of active isolated stretching, I could put my wrist on my toes.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
And it was amazing. And that's what I do every morning, just about.
Yeah.
Half an hour routine. And then I lift weights too. As you get older, you have to lift weights. I can feel my hands. I neglect my hands. I was a carpenter for a long time, and I don't take care of them like I take care of my legs. But you really got to strengthen, and you really got to stretch.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I was curious about. I remember you talking about how often you did it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty consistent, eh?
It is. I haven't been lifting the last two weeks. I got to get back into it, but the stretching is consistent.
That's just a daily or every other day, or?
Yeah, pretty much daily, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Probably.
You just kind of morning or night, or?
I do it every time before a run.
That.
And then if I'm feeling stiff, like sometimes after I go skiing, I'll do it just because skiing's a whole different muscle set. And I have ski specific. That's really my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
But I have this whole specific set of ski specific strengthening exercises, and that just works the glutes and quads differently. So I got to stretch those out. And when I do, it feels better. Active isolated stretching, in a quick rundown of what it is when you're doing static stretching, your reflexes kick in and are like, oh, that muscle's being stretched for no apparent reason. Let's hold off on that. But active isolated is like, if you can picture, if you're lying down on your back and you raise your legs straight up in the air till end of mobility,
Yeah.
you use the rope to tweak it because you're engaging your quad. Your hamstring has to relax.
Right.
Because your hamstring's like, oh, good, we're being stretched out because buddy quad's doing all the work.
Right.
And then you just pull it a little bit more. And if you do that, your muscles, they remember where they're supposed to lie. Right. And so
really opens things up.
Right. For me, it really works. I've got friends who yoga really works for them. And I find if you try to switch, you have to do it really gradually, especially the older you get, because if you don't, you're going to hurt something.
Okay. Yeah.
That's another thing. Like if you see this exercise, like, oh, that looks cool. Like you gotta always start with just body weight.
Yes. Yeah. Especially, ease into it.
Even you're just engaging those muscles and waking up those nerves.
Right.
And then you can add weights later.
Yeah.
But it takes a while.
Yeah. Fantastic.
But I think that helps.
Active isolated stretching. I got to start doing it. I'm starting to feel it in my almost 40-year-old body. Well, fantastic, man. Can you believe that was almost an hour?
No.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colin. This is a pleasure being here with Colin and his Shaky Legs podcast. That's the name of it, right?
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, this is I've been wanting to do this one for a while. I'm so glad that you were cool with just sitting down and chatting for a bit, because there's people hanging out in the house and stuff, but we had to sneak away. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you ever want to come out and run the Herring Run, I highly recommend it. It's so fun. It's like feels like a community event. You get to know all the trail runners, the trail running people, which are a fantastic bunch.
Yeah, everybody's pretty positive. It's amazing, really.
Yeah, it's I'm a big fan of the scene, and yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for chatting, and
thanks for asking me the fun questions.
Yeah, I'm glad did you have fun?
I did.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, we'll see you guys on the next pod, and yeah, maybe I'll take some clips of the race tomorrow, because I'm kind of hurt, so I'd rather do something out there. I'm gonna try to run the 10K, but okay. Yeah. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Peace out.